Gravity is one of those things we just accept as an absolute constant.
Right, yeah.
Keeps our feet on the ground. It dictates how we build our cities, how we move. But I mean, as we get older, gravity starts to feel a little bit more like, well, an adversary.
Oh, absolutely. It really does.
It pulls relentlessly on the joints. It makes a simple walk down the driveway feel risky. And, a fall isn't just a scraped knee anymore.
No, not at all.
It can be this sudden life-altering event.
Yeah, it becomes a literal heavy burden. And because of that physical burden, that very rational fear of falling, the physical world for many older adults starts to shrink.
Right. They stay inside more.
Exactly. They move less.
Yeah.
And the problem is when the body stops moving, the brain often follows suit, which leads to this whole cascade of cognitive vulnerabilities.
Wow. So what if we could just, turn gravity off?
That would be the dream, right?
Right. Or at least dial it down significantly while we work on protecting one of our most vital, vulnerable organs, the aging brain.
Which is exactly what we are getting into today.
Yes, welcome to the deep dive. Today we have a mission, and it involves taking a highly rigorous, scientifically backed look at how moving your workout into the water might just be the ultimate strategy for combating cognitive decline.
I am so excited for this one.
Me too. To do this, we are unpacking a brand new, incredibly comprehensive piece of research. It's a paper titled, let me make sure I get this right, Comparative Efficacy of Different Aquatic Exercise Modalities on Cognitive Function in the Elderly, a systematic review and network meta-analysis.
Quite a mouthful, but a very important paper.
Definitely. This was authored by Jinglei and a dedicated team of researchers, and it was just published in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine in 2026.
And, it is a brilliant piece of literature because it addresses a demographic reality we simply cannot ignore anymore.
Right, the numbers are kind of staggering.
They really are. The United Nations World Population Prospects recently projected that the global elderly population will hit 16% by the year 2050.
Wait, 16%? That's huge.
We are talking about over 1 billion people, and while aging itself doesn't guarantee severe cognitive deterioration, it dramatically increases the risk of decline.
Which can eventually progress into things like Alzheimer's.
Exactly. Alzheimer's, dementia, serious neurodegenerative conditions. So finding safe, highly effective, and accessible ways to preserve cognitive function is easily one of the most pressing medical challenges of our time.
And we already know the baseline facts, right? Physical exercise is essentially medicine for the brain.
Oh, absolutely.
It's practically a cliche at this point to say, exercise is good for you, but the biology behind it is wild.
The biological mechanisms are incredibly well documented. When we exercise, we mitigate cognitive decline through several distinct pathways. For one, we enhance neurogenesis.
Which is making new brain cells, right?
Yes. The actual creation of new neurons, particularly in the hippocampus, which is the memory center of the brain. We also increase cerebral blood flow, delivering a massive influx of oxygen and nutrients to brain tissue.
Like giving the brain a power wash of nutrients.
Basically, yeah. We reduce systemic inflammation, and we promote synaptic plasticity.
Synaptic plasticity, meaning?
The ability of our neural networks to constantly adapt, rewire, and strengthen themselves. For example, aerobic exercise is widely known to improve episodic memory.
Okay.
While resistance training has been shown to enhance inhibitory control and executive function.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if exercise is such a miracle drug for the brain, why aren't we just, putting every 65-year-old on a treadmill or handing them heavy dumbbells?
Well, that's the catch, isn't it?
Right. The problem, as we established with our whole gravity dilemma earlier, is physical vulnerability. The elderly are disproportionately prone to exercise-related injuries on land.
Yes, the risk factor goes way up.
So if gravity is the enemy of aging joints and brittle bones, water acts as this, liquid safety net.
What's fascinating here is the specific biophysics of aquatic immersion. It's not just about not falling. The water itself is an active therapeutic agent.
Wait, really? The water itself is doing something?
Yeah. When you immerse the human body in water, especially up to chest level, you are subjected to hydrostatic pressure.
Okay. Hydrostatic pressure, meaning the weight of the water pushing on you.
Exactly.
So the water is acting almost like a full-body compression sock, physically pushing in on the skin and muscles from all sides.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. This hydrostatic pressure physically forces venous blood from the lower extremities, so your legs and abdomen up toward the chest and heart.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
Yeah, this increases cardiac output and directly increases cerebral blood flow. Studies have actually confirmed elevated blood flow velocity in the middle and posterior cerebral arteries just from an individual standing in the water.
That's crazy. Your brain is literally getting a better, highly pressurized blood supply just by wading into the shallow end.
Exactly, before you even start doing jumping jacks or swimming laps.
That is amazing.
And add to that the thermal properties. The warmth of a typical therapeutic pool can promote profound physical relaxation and reduce psychological stress.
Like being in a giant bath.
Right. And then, of course, there is buoyancy. Buoyancy radically reduces the impact on load-bearing joints like the knees and hips.
Which is huge for anyone with arthritis.
Huge. It also prolongs balance reaction times, meaning if you stumble or lose your balance in the water, you fall much slower.
Because the water catches you.
Yes, it gives your brain and muscles critical extra fractions of a second to correct your posture. It virtually eliminates the anxiety and catastrophic risk of falling, making it a uniquely safe environment for an older adult to push their physical limits.
So water is basically the perfect biological environment.
It really is.
But that creates a new problem. What's the actual prescription? I mean, once we get an older adult into the pool, what do we tell them to do?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Do you just tread water? Do you need to be doing underwater lunges? Do you swim laps? Nobody has ever run a giant 10-way clinical tournament comparing every single water workout simultaneously.
No, they haven't, which is why the methodology of this new paper is so crucial.
Okay, let's get into how they figured this out.
That is where the methodology of this paper truly shines. They utilized a statistical tool called a network meta-analysis, or NMA.
In the NMA. Okay.
The research team gathered 9 high-quality randomized controlled trials involving 324 participants aged 60 to 90.
Got it.
Now, in a traditional standard meta-analysis, you can only compare treatment A to treatment B if a specific localized trial directly compared them.
If they were in the same room, basically.
Right. But an NMA is much more sophisticated. It creates a connected mathematical graph of evidence. It synthesizes both direct evidence from trials that explicitly compared 2 interventions and indirect evidence.
Basically, it's like figuring out sports rankings.
Exactly like that.
So if a study in one country compares water aerobics to just sitting on the couch, and another study in a different country compares aquatic strength training to sitting on the couch,
Yes.
the NMA uses that shared couch control group as a common denominator to mathematically deduce how water aerobics compares to aquatic strength training, even if they never faced off head-to-head.
You nailed it. It models the network as a connected graph, allowing researchers to calculate robust probability rankings for all these interventions, even without direct head-to-head trials for every single pairing.
I mean, I love the elegance of that math, but I have to push back here a little bit to play devil's advocate.
Please do.
We're talking about 9 different studies spanning the globe. You've got data from participants doing deep water running in Hong Kong, from a 2024 study by COWAC mixed with people doing aquatic strength training in Spain, from an older 2007 study by Corral,
Right.
mixed with patients in Thailand, from a 2023 study by Ploydang. Plus, they're all taking completely different cognitive tests.
They are.
Some use the Many Mental State Examination, or MMSE. Some use the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, the MoCA. Others use the Stroop Color Word Test. Aren't we combining incredibly diverse cultures, entirely different workout regimens, and totally different scoring systems?
It sounds chaotic, right?
Yeah, aren't we essentially comparing apples to oranges?
It is a highly critical question, and the researchers themselves are very transparent about this challenge.
Yeah, how do they fix it?
To address the different cognitive scoring systems, the researchers didn't use raw points. Instead, they used standardized mean differences, or SMDs.
Standardized mean differences, so not the final score.
Right. Instead of looking at the raw points, they looked at the percentage of improvement. If one test has a maximum of 30 points and another has a maximum of 100, the SMD just measures how far the needle moved for the patient relative to their own baseline.
Oh, I see.
It neutralizes the arbitrary point systems and turns apples and oranges into, well, let's say generic units of fruit.
Units of fruit based on how far the needle moved. Okay, I'll buy that. It democratizes the data.
It does. But the authors explicitly acknowledge a related limitation, however. Combining global screening tools like the MMSE with highly domain-specific tests, like the Stroop test, introduces what they call conceptual heterogeneity.
Conceptual heterogeneity.
Mm-hmm.
Fancy words for they test different things.
Exactly. The Stroop test is a fascinating psychological tool. Imagine looking at the word blue, but the word is printed in red ink, and you are asked to state the color of the ink, not read the word.
Oh, I've tried that. It makes my brain hurt.
Right, because it measures executive function, cognitive flexibility, and selective attention. The MMSE, on the other hand, just checks basic orientation and recall, things like what year is it?
Gotcha.
So these tests assess overlapping but distinctly different cognitive constructs. While the SMD finds a common mathematical denominator, we do lose some of the granular detail about exactly which part of the brain is benefiting most from each specific exercise.
So we know the brain got better overall, but maybe not exactly which quadrant.
Precisely. But for the purpose of identifying the best overall strategy for global cognitive improvement, the NMA is the most robust statistical tool available.
Well, the methodology holds water pun absolutely intended.
Nice one.
Let's get to the results. Here's where it gets really interesting. The researchers used a metric called SUCRA.
Right, SUCRA.
Which stands for the surface under the cumulative ranking curve. It essentially gives us a percentage score representing the mathematical probability that a specific intervention is the absolute best option out of the entire group.
Exactly. It's a probability ranking.
Let's look at the standings. Coming in last, unsurprisingly, is the non-exercising control group, with a miserable SUCRA score of 3.94%.
Yeah, couch surfing remains completely undefeated in its failure to protect the aging brain.
Truly undefeated. Just above them, land-based exercise sits at 48.34%.
Which serves as an excellent grounded baseline. Land-based exercise is undeniably good for you, but let's see how the various water workouts compare.
Right, because this is where the water really shows off. Barely beating out land-based exercise is aquatic high-intensity interval training, or HIIT, at 49.12%.
Very close to land exercise.
Then we take a jump. Aquatic strength training comes in at 51.80%. Taking the silver medal is aquatic aerobic exercise at 61.44%.
Okay, a solid jump there.
But the undisputed gold medalist, blowing the rest out of the water with a massive SUCRE score of 85.36%, is aquatic cognitive motor exercise.
That gap is just remarkable. 85.36% versus 61% for the runner-up.
It's not even close.
Not at all. And importantly, when compared strictly against the non-exercising control group, only the aquatic cognitive motor exercise showed a statistically significant, undeniable improvement in the standardized mean difference.
Wait, only that one?
Yes, it wasn't just slightly better. It was in a league of its own.
Yeah, okay. Before we dive into the winner, I have to stop and ask about aquatic HIIT.
I figured you might.
Because in the broader fitness culture right now, HIIT is king. It's everywhere.
It really is.
We are constantly told that short, intense bursts of exercise are the ultimate biological hack for longevity and cellular health. Why did it rank so low here? It basically tied with just regular walking or moving on land.
It's a great question. The authors point out that while HIIT is incredibly effective in the general younger population literature, the reality for older adults in a water environment is vastly different.
Different how?
Well, the unique physiological and safety considerations of a 65 to 90-year-old make it exceedingly difficult for them to actually achieve the necessary high training intensities in a pool.
Oh, because the water is heavy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Water resistance is dense.
Yeah.
To hit 85 to 95% of your maximum heart rate in the water requires an immense amount of explosive muscular power.
Yeah, if you've ever tried to run fast in waist-deep water, you know exactly what this feels like.
It's exhausting.
You feel completely exhausted, your muscles are burning, but your heart rate actually isn't spiking that high because the water acts like a physical governor on your speed.
Precisely. The older adults were hitting a wall of water resistance long before they hit the true cardiovascular threshold needed to trigger the benefits of HIIT.
So they feel like they are dying, but biologically they aren't quite there.
Right. An older adult might feel like they are working at absolute maximum capacity, but mechanically, the water resistance prevents them from achieving the true cardiovascular spike required to trigger the specific metabolic and vascular adaptations of HIIT.
That makes total sense. The intensity just doesn't translate safely or effectively for this demographic.
The water protects them, but it also physically caps their explosive output.
Okay, let's move from the paradox to the champion aquatic cognitive motor exercise, a SUCR score of over 85%.
The undisputed winner.
Since this is the undisputed winner of the data, we need to paint a picture for you of what this actually looks like in practice. Because it's clearly not just, swimming a few lazy laps on a Sunday morning.
No, it's highly structured. Let's look at one of the specific protocols from the network. There's a 2025 study by Kun Kum Chu and colleagues out of Thailand.
Okay, what did they do?
Their intervention involved a 60-minute session. Participants started with a 10-minute warm-up, followed by 40 minutes of aquatic aerobic exercises. Things like vigorous hip flexion, abduction, and side back kicks against the dense water resistance.
Okay, pretty standard water aerobics so far.
Right. But here is the kicker. While they are doing these physical movements, the instructors are forcing them to complete cognitive tasks simultaneously.
At the same time.
Yes. The study specifically notes they were asked to mentally recall specific numbers and sequences of colors while performing the physical exercises against the water current.
Oh, wow. It's like trying to solve a Sudoku puzzle while walking on a balance beam.
That's a great analogy. You are forcing the brain's processor to split its bandwidth between high-level mental recall and basic physical survival in a fluid environment.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the underlying biology of why this works so spectacularly well is all about profound synergy, right?
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's exactly that synergy. The motor component moving against the hydrostatic pressure and physical resistance enhances aerobic fitness.
It builds the hardware.
Exactly. It builds the hardware of the brain by increasing cerebral blood flow, promoting the expression of neurotrophic factors like BDNF, and improving white matter integrity. It lays down the vascular and structural foundation.
So the physical movement is laying the cable, building the vascular infrastructure. I imagine the cognitive tasks, the counting, the color recall, the spatial awareness. That must be the software update running on those newly built lines.
That's a brilliant way to put it. By forcing the participant to actively recall numbers or solve mental puzzles in real time, you are selectively stimulating higher-order brain functions, working memory, visuospatial abilities, and selective attention.
And doing them together is what makes it magic.
Precisely. When these two distinct demands, the physical and the mental, occur simultaneously, they work synergistically. They complement and reinforce distinct neural networks to induce profound neuroplasticity.
So you are basically rewiring the brain.
Yes, you are promoting neurogenesis and synaptogenesis, the actual physical rewiring and connection of neurons in the brain, far more effectively than if you did a crossword puzzle in a chair, or if you just swam laps mindlessly.
The researchers call it dual tasking. And, what really struck me reading this is how perfectly dual tasking mimics the actual chaotic cognitive demands of a real daily life.
Oh, absolutely. Life is rarely a single task endeavor. Think about safely crossing a busy multi-lane street.
Right.
You have to modulate your postural control, your balance, and your gait speed. That is the motor task.
And at the same time.
Simultaneously, you have to scan for unpredictable traffic, judge the velocity of oncoming cars, and anticipate the changing of the pedestrian light. That is the highly demanding cognitive executive function task.
Yeah, if you stumble while crossing that street, you need the balance reaction time to catch yourself while still tracking the cars so you don't get hit. That is intense, high-stakes dual tasking.
And you simply can't practice that safely on land if you are frail.
No, if you push an older adult to their absolute dual tasking limit in a land-based gym, the moment their brain gets overloaded by the math problem, their motor control falters, and they fall hard onto a solid floor.
Exactly. The catastrophic risk is just too high to test their limits. Which brings us right back to your liquid safety net.
The pool.
Water is the only medium where older adults can safely push their dual tasking limits to the absolute point of failure without the risk of a catastrophic injury.
Because if they fall...
If they get cognitively overwhelmed by the mental puzzle and lose their physical balance in the pool, they just make a splash. The buoyancy catches them safely.
That is so cool.
It allows physical therapists and clinicians to push the cognitive motor synergy much, much harder than they ever could on land.
So what does this all mean if you are listening to this and looking out for aging parents, or honestly, if you are just planning for your own longevity and long-term brain health down the road? This data is a massive neon sign.
It really is.
It proves that cognitive engagement during exercise is just as crucial as the physical sweat. Mindless exercise on a stationary bike is good, but mindful, intellectually challenging exercise in a dynamic environment is vastly superior.
The data supports that completely.
Because all the aquatic modalities matched or beat land-based training, the pool is an incredibly valuable, perhaps the most valuable resource for aging adults.
It is a highly compelling conclusion. However, as rigorous as this network meta-analysis is, we must view it through the lens of scientific caution.
Right, there's always a but.
There is. The researchers outlined several vital caveats. First, as we discussed, 9 studies is a relatively small network. We are dealing with 324 participants total across all the different interventions.
So we need a bigger sample size.
Exactly. While the statistical modeling is deeply sound, the field needs much larger multi-center trials to narrow the confidence intervals and solidify these findings.
Okay, what else?
Second, none of these specific studies included long-term follow-up data. We know these older adults improve their cognitive scores over an 8 to 16-week intervention, but we don't know if those neuroplastic benefits are sustained 6 months or a full year after the supervised program ends.
Okay. We need to see if the software update actually sticks over time.
Right. And there is also the standardization issue.
Like everyone doing it differently.
Yes. Currently, an aquatic cognitive motor exercise protocol in a clinic in Spain might look vastly different from a protocol in Thailand.
Right, doing different kicks, different math problems.
Exactly. The field desperately needs standardized protocols with clearly defined cognitive tasks, specific water depths, and measurable progression parameters so these interventions can be reliably prescribed by doctors, much like a specific dosage of a pharmaceutical medication.
That makes sense.
We also need to see how these specific modalities perform for different subpopulations, say, those who are perfectly healthy versus those already diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment or early-stage dementia.
Those are all incredibly valid points for the next waves of clinical research. But the baseline established here by Song and their team is undeniable.
Oh, absolutely undeniable.
The unique combination of hydrostatic pressure, buoyancy, physical water resistance, and active, real-time cognitive problem-solving is a remarkably potent recipe for neuroplasticity.
This raises an important question, one that extends well beyond the pages of a medical journal and into urban planning and community health architecture.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
If combining mental puzzles with physical water resistance is this profoundly effective for preserving the aging brain, how should we be redesigning our public spaces?
Wow, yeah.
We usually think of community pools as places for kids to splash around during the summer or for competitive athletes to swim monotonous laps. But if we take this data seriously, should we be outfitting our local pools, senior centers, and physical therapy clinics with interactive cognitive challenges?
That's a fascinating thought.
Could the local public pool become the ultimate cognitive gymnasium of the future?
I love that vision. A cognitive gymnasium where the water itself is a primary piece of medical equipment, and the workouts are designed to make you think just as hard as you paddle.
It would be revolutionary.
It completely reframes how we think about aquatic fitness and aging. Well, if you want to explore the network meta-analysis data for yourself, examine those SCCRA rankings, and look at the risk of bias assessments, we highly encourage you to read the full original article.
It is definitely worth the read.
Again, that is Comparative Efficacy of Different Aquatic Exercise Modalities on Cognitive Function in the Elderly, a Systematic Review and Network Meta-Analysis. Authored by Jinglei Song and their team, published in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine in 2026.
Great stuff.
Be sure to follow the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss one of our customized, scientifically rigorous deep dives. Until next time, keep questioning the constants, and remember, sometimes, to protect the brain, you just have to find a way to turn off gravity.